A lot has changed overnight, but Buick and GMC's commitment to you remains the same. We understand you want to feel safe, so we're offering current owners complimentary OnStar Crisis Assist services. Should you need a vehicle, we're offering 0% financing for up to 84 months with deferred payment options for 120 days. Plus, you may have the option to shop online and take delivery at home. Visit our websites for the help you need.
Visit AutoSpot GMC today.
Hello, my name is Mark Berry. I'm a 4-year Air Force veteran and close to 20 years of DoD fire service. Last year, June of 2019, we happened to have one of the hardest parts of our lives happen. We had a medical with me, ended up with massive hemoptysis. And during that time, while I was in the medically induced coma, my wife frantically looked for help. She found the congressman's office, which responded extremely quickly. They found out that I was improperly coded in the VA and quickly helped to fix it, which allowed me to get a medical flight to UCLA and get the medical treatment I needed, and that's why I'm here today.
I just want to say to anyone out there, if you have any federal issues, please visit your congressman's office to see what resources are available.
This ad was paid for with official funds from the office of Congressman Michael F.Q. San Nicolas.
Funerals actually take a lot more planning than I expected. With us using island cuisine for the first time, of course we were iffy, but once they came and showed us their service, their food, tasted their food and everything, we definitely used them again because their service and food is just awesome.
After Guam, si Rod's Gimp, I'm introducing the 2020 Toyota Tacoma Access Cap T-Max. Este na mes, kaso may promo United Airlines, $1,000 United vouchers. After nananga, sabik man manono si Tacoma, Guam, Tacoma territory. Text si Rod's, ginagi Atkins Pro Toyota, 671-788-2584. Alumbray, go si Rod's, sinanagan sa 671-788-2584. After nananga, let's go places.
With many accolades and celebrations. Good evening, Kandit Land. Buenas noches, Marianas, Den, Micronesia. I'm Troy Torres.
And I'm Johnny Rosario.
Welcome to our special Thursday night edition of Kandit News here in our studios in Tumon, Guam. Thank you so much for joining us. And happy birthday to Tossie Tanatango and Leanne Mendiola.
Mm-hmm.
And happy belated birthday to Education Board Chairwoman Maria Gutierrez.
Yeah, that's my tiger.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Happy birthday.
Thanks for joining us. I know it was just a few hours ago that we were live regarding the Guam legislature. The Guam legislature has ended its session. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of expectation from people that when the legislature would go into session, it would be their time to shine since the governor has been botching this entire emergency response thing, and that senators would do something to provide economic relief to Guam families in the form of either a local stimulus package, that was one that Senator Regine Lee proposed, or to tie the governor's hands on the payment of tax refunds, mm-hmm. so that things would be locked in so that the governor would pay more tax refunds. But the legislature did neither of those things.
Nothing. Zero. Nothing. Taja. Wala.
Yeah. And what? And what?
How do you say it? How do you say no in Truckee or Chukis and Palawan and?
In what?
In Truckies.
In Palawan, it's diak, right?
Diak. So
I don't
zero,
know. I don't know what it is.
Nothing. Taja. Wala. Nyak. And
diak.
Diak.
Yeah.
And whatever else. Put it down in our. Yeah.
I don't know what it is in Chuukese or Pohnpeian or Yapese. So you can never keep a straight face on Kandit. Can never, ever. So there.
But we love everybody.
Yes, we do.
Kandit is for everybody.
I don't love everybody. I love every race,
Yes.
Yes.
color, creed.
Yes.
Yes.
I love every race, color, creed, whatever, sexuality, blah, 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 whatever.
Yeah.
Even to all of you breeders out there, you know what? You guys are still A-okay in my book. But, so there were high expectations that the Guam legislature would do something that would be meaningful for the people of Guam. Meanwhile, Governor Lulian Guerrero tossed out or just rebuked the idea that Speaker Tina Mooney Barnes had for mass testing. And the speaker had this whole plan ready with some private sector partners to get the same testing kits from South Korea that the federal government ordered 750,000 of. Meanwhile, across the Marianas Trench or the Philippine Sea or whatever you want to call it, Governor Ralph Torres had ordered a whole bunch of these test kits from South Korea. 20,000 already came in. They're expecting 40,000 more. He had a very clear goal of test everybody.
Right.
That's a very clear goal from Governor Ralph Torres and his administration.
I think they're reading. I think the governor in Saipan staff and everybody's reading everything else out there and not just their own stuff.
Oh, you mean they're informed and they got it together?
Yes.
Yeah.
Versus Guam, I think they're reading their own stuff.
Or they're just don't know how to read or something. and then their legislature. So their legislature met today.
Today at 2:30.
Today at 2:30 for the first time since this whole crisis started. And their legislature is a beleaguered legislature. Prior to this COVID-19 thing starting in the Marianas, there was a huge crisis, like almost a constitutional crisis because of the big corruption scandal involving Governor Al Torres. There are questions of loyalty within his own Republican ranks inside the legislature. Then there was all of this misuse of funds. Prior to this COVID-19 thing starting, the legislature has had to deal with, and of course the people of the CNMI have had to deal with, the fiscal mismanagement of Governor Ralph Torres' administration and how it has sent them spiraling downward. And then COVID-19 happened, and now it's even worse.
Right.
And so the CNMI legislature, its House of Representatives, went into session today. And they have members who, like Ed Probst, the CNMI Senate has Senator Paul Manglotnya, who have offered solutions.
Right.
Very concrete solutions to the fiscal issues of the Commonwealth. And what comes through in my mind is just how much they have it together and the roles that they stay in. They kind of stay in their lanes in the separation of powers over in the Commonwealth, where their legislature, like, you know, their senators and House of Representatives people, they have regulated their discussion about solutions to the budgetary and financial matters of the Commonwealth during this COVID-19 thing. Of course, like all the other leaders, they're saying, you know, stay home, wear your mask, all that stuff, right? They're doing the leader thing. But here in Guam, when our senators are all over the place, and the one thing that you expected the Guam legislature to do to provide economic relief to the people of Guam, they didn't do. And probably their biggest job and the only job that they have, which is the budget of the government of Guam, they didn't touch that at all. They
Nothing.
didn't say anything about the budget of the government of Guam at all. And so before we get to, because we're going to play the session that happened today. And don't you worry, it's not 4 days worth of session like the Guam legislature had in order to do nothing. It's only 1 hour of session. And I haven't reviewed it yet, but I have a feeling they didn't have any recesses. But we can get a recess counter on to see how many recesses happened during the House of Representatives session today. So, you know, if you guys want to play the shot game on it or whatever, I'm pretty sure you can do tequila with your shots and you won't even be buzzed by the end of it. This is just a guess because I haven't watched this session yet. And it's compliments of Congressman Ed Probst. This is on his page. But before we even get to that, I want to show you something that is lacking in fiscal planning here in the government of Guam. And this is a fiscal realignment plan or a fiscal response briefing, which is sort of like a contracted plan that the governor's office revealed on March 31 or published on March 31, 2020 in the CNMI. And it's something that Governor Ralph Torres had a bunch of his experts put together prior to March 31. And it's something that's lacking on Guam. This is not something that you see the governor or the Guam legislature putting together, and it's something that's sorely needed. Go ahead and cast to my screen. So this is, it's called Facing the Challenge, Addressing the CNMI's Fiscal Crisis. You see it's published March 31. Here are the members of this committee who put this briefing paper together, and it's more than a briefing paper. It's actually very informative. And again, it's something that the government of Guam can put together very easily and just hasn't. They make it very clear about the two tasks of this fiscal paper. They have one task is to assess the size and nature of the fiscal crisis. And in that fiscal crisis, there are two things to assess. One is the structural deficit of the CNMI, and all a structural deficit is this amount of money that from year to year, the CNMI government is not collecting or is spending more than it would, or the revenues coming in. So it's like they always have expenditures that are always more than revenues by a certain amount of money, and that carries from year to year. And then to assess the size of the cyclical fiscal deficit, which in this case is the COVID-19 thing. Basically, like when an emergency comes up or like some unexpected, unanticipated act of God or whatever comes up, they have to address something that has a very big impact. So that's the cyclical deficit that they want to identify. And then task 2 is to identify how they're going to deal with that deficit. Basically, how is the CNMI government going to survive not making cash for the remaining 6 months of the fiscal year? And so this was actually, I mean, I kind of see where the political slant of this paper is they try very hard to blame the CNMI legislature for earmarking funds and making it harder for the governor in the CNMI to balance the budget. And then they also try to blame the pension fund retirees. The amount that is non-negotiable has to be paid to the retirees, and constitutionally non-negotiable has to be paid to the public school system. You'll see throughout this paper, and I'm not going to review the whole thing, I'm just giving you guys a synopsis. You'll see throughout this whole thing, if you review it, how these people in this committee put the onus on public school and the retirees. But the ironic thing about it is that even these people admit that because the payment, the earmarks to the public school system are constitutionally mandated, and because the payments to retirees through the pension fund is something that is non-negotiable because it's a legal obligation, you know, they have to find elsewhere in the budget to cut. And part of what this says is that out of a $233 million budget for this year, in order for the CNMI government to survive in the next 6 months, it has to cut the equivalent of $65 million annualized budget or annual budget in the final 6 months, which means with 50% of the fiscal year done, you multiply 65 times 2. They have to cut $130 million in cash obligations in the remaining 6 months of the fiscal year. And so, and you see it in the graphs that they come up with here, all the data from the audited financials that they present in this very well done, professionally laid out fiscal plan and this is contrary to what Governor Ralph Torres has been telling the CNMI people. Right here, you see where the blue portion of these graphs, of the line graphs, that blue portion is personnel costs. And since from FY13, where personnel costs were below $50 million, to FY20, where personnel costs are $107 million.
FY19.
Oh yeah, but what's not showing there is FY20, where it goes to $107 million. You see how from FY13 to FY20, Governor Ralph Torres has doubled personnel costs in the CNMI. And if he had not doubled personnel costs in the CNMI, they could pay for PSS, they could pay for the retirees and everything. And it's not just personnel costs that have increased, it's also the other expenditure amounts that you see have increased over the years, so that the CNMI budget now is at above $250 million. They discussed the deficit. So all of this information is the kind of data that legislatures need in order to effectively do their jobs. And today, the CNMI legislature went to do their jobs. And it's not like the Guam legislature where they're all spread out.
I want to see it. I want to.
They are the CNMI House of Representatives is around a table, and they're next to each other, and so they really are taking risks by going into session, and so they really need to be applauded. But let's just see. Let us watch the CNMI House of Representatives in action today.
Calendar, but before I make the motion for the adoption, I want to make first a motion for the suspension of Rule 7, Section 9, committee reports and other documents, and Rule 9, Section 9 and 10. So moved.
Motion has been made for specific pertinent rules to be suspended. By Floria has been seconded. Discussion on the motion.
That is Speaker BJ
All
Atel.
those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Motion carries. Floor leader, please.
Thank you. At this time, I make a motion that we adopt House Resolution 21-24, a House resolution to respectfully urge the Honorable Ralph De Longuero Torres, Governor of the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, to advise the Secretary of Labor to streamline the application process for the CARES Act unemployment programs. I move for its adoption.
Right here, look at this.
Thank you, Floor leader. Motion for the
CARES
adoption
Act.
of House Resolution 21-24 has been presented by our floor leader and has been seconded. Discussion on that motion. Ready? All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say nay. Motion carries. Floor leader, that takes care of our resolution calendar. Can we move on to bill calendar, please? Recognize the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Under our bill calendar, we have 4 bills for action on today's order of business. And first is House Bill number 21-87, a bill for an act to allow the Department of Finance to establish fees by regulation and allow for Before I make that motion, can I, my apologies, suspend Rule 7, Section 9, committee reports and other documents, and Rule 9, Section 9 and 10. So move.
Thank you, floor leader. A motion to suspend specific rules by our floor leader has been seconded. Discussion on that motion. Ready? All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say nay. Motion carries. Floor leader, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And first is House Bill number 21-76, a bill for an act to repeal and reenact 4 CMC, subsection 2707, and 4 CMC, subsection 2308, to designate the casino license fee to supplement the payment of the 25% of all the retirees' pension, and to identify recipients of the funds generated from the gross revenue tax and for other purposes. I move for its passage.
I want to pause it right there. So
That's to pay the retirees that
Yes.
that Ralph took away. So they're tying his hands to make sure the retirees get paid.
and they're calling on the casino to make that payment. So this was one of the solutions that was proffered by Senator Paul Manglonia in a lengthy letter to Governor Ralph Torres a couple of weeks ago, where, sorry, I'm speaking into the microphone, where the senator said, hey, you know, instead of causing all this misery to a bunch of people, why don't you consider all of these fiscal solutions? So here you have legislators in the Commonwealth providing fiscal solutions, which is their job. That is the essence of a legislature, is to provide for the fiscal purse strings of whatever government that they are in charge of. And so anyway, I'm sorry, we'll continue with the session.
Thank you, member. Motion for the passage of House Bill number 21-76 has been presented by our floor leader and has been seconded. Discussion on the motion. Rep. Benavente, please.
If I'm not mistaken, these portions of the bill is basically originated that PSS was inclusive in this amount of money that was introduced in the 18th legislature.
It's there. It's there.
And, but dedicating it to basically to the retirement fund, you know, there is already additional funds that was previously allocated in the past. So I'm just being cautious about it. But I don't want to overshoot the intent of the initial bill that would eventually shortchange PSS. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Representative Benavente and members. Further discussion? If not, the members allow myself to present the substitute bill that has been distributed to the members. Objection? Members, the House substitute portion is generally just fixing some technical errors, fixing the LEHAC and to its new name, which is the apologies, FAC, and putting additional language in the findings, which is just reflective of the settlement agreement between the Betty Johnson case. So it's just putting a little bit more history to the legislation itself, and making just small technical terms in the bill itself. Nothing has changed in the body. The $15 million of the license fee shall be dedicated strictly for the 25% of the retirees. This is the license fee. Right, currently under 20-10, the license fee is being distributed to the senatorial districts, and then the retirees portion has been, under 20-10, was moved to the GRT, CGRT. Unfortunately, no collections on CGRT. The retirees are not getting their full pension. The 25% is short, starting, I believe, yesterday is their first pay period that they did not receive their 25%. And this legislation will dedicate all $15 million of the license fee that's due every end of August, early September, and will carry the 25% for the full fiscal year for the retirees. The legislation itself is not new. We introduced this legislation in the 19th legislature under 19-21 to do exactly what this legislation is doing. We introduced it in the 20th legislature under 20-28. Unfortunately, it never made it to the governor's desk for his action. This is our opportunity, as the argument then was, should we ever come into a situation that affects our retirees, this legislation, if we would have had it in place already, would have diverted any of the issues of the 25% of the retirees. Additionally, with the enactment of what became 18-56, the whole intent was to address, the argument was to address the pensioners, the retirees, because after the Betty Johnson case, they lost their 25%, and a good portion of the retirees lost that 25% for a good 10 or 11 months. When they actually signed the bill into law, what became 1856, they took the first year and the fifth year, which is $30 million, and they addressed the retirees 25% and gave them the back payment of their 10 or 11 months. So this legislation will dedicate the $15 million directly for the retirees, and we can remove that issue should anything like this happen in the future. And then the GRT portion will dedicate the 15 million will be distributed to the senatorial districts. The remaining amount of that 10% shall be reserved for emergency purposes such as this today. And after that, it'll go to the FAC, the Commonwealth Healthcare Corporation, the payment of land compensation for the taking of private lands, the public school system, Northern Marianas College, and Northern Marianas Trade Institute. No other changes other than that. We just took the money, instead of giving the GRT to the retirees for their pensions of the 25%, we're putting the license fee back as it was in the original 1856. Any questions that I may be able to answer? So move on that substitute. Second. Okay, members, floor leader. Discussion on the substitute. Ready? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. Motion carries. Back to the main motion under 21-76 HS1. Rep. Tina Sablan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to express my appreciation to you for taking the lead on this legislation. I am a co-sponsor, as are many of our colleagues, and this is really a source of funding that should never have been diverted from the original intent, which was to provide a secure source of funding for the 25% portion of retiree pensions. And hopefully this will restore some sense of security for them. Hopefully the casino licensee actually pays the casino license when it's due and payable. But what we know from experience, from the history of the casino gross revenue taxes, is that that is not a secure source of funding for our retirees, and they really do deserve that. So thank you for that. I'm ready to vote.
Thank you, Rep. Tinsma. Any further discussion?
Ready.
Ready?
Ready?
They're like ready.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Jeez, that's fast.
Yes.
Representative Bentley? Good. Representative Blanco? Representative Roja? Representative Camacho?
Good.
Representative Castro?
Good.
Representative Leon Guerrero?
Good.
Representative Flores?
Yes.
Representative Guerrero?
Good.
Representative Nicholas?
No.
Representative Zaman?
Yes.
Representative Mongolia? Representative Rosita? Representative Heron? Representative Rhodes? Representative Christina Sablan?
Yes.
Representative John Paul Sablan?
Good.
Representative Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Speaker?
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, all 20 members voted yes.
Thank you, Clerk. With all 20 members voting yes, House Bill 21-76 HS1 hereby passes the House. Floor leader, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Next, again on our bill calendar, and before our next bill, I want to make a motion again that we suspend Rule 7, Section 9, and Rule 9, Section 9 and 10. So moved.
Thank
Not
you,
a
Floor
single
leader.
recess.
Motion for suspension of specific rules by Floor leader has been seconded. Discussion on that motion. Ready? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. Motion carries. Floor leader, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Next on the bill calendar is House Bill number 21-87, a bill for an act to allow the Department of Finance to establish fees by regulation and allow for temporary business licenses. I move for its adoption.
What business licenses?
2187.
Thank you, Floor Leader. Floor Leader has made a motion for the passage of House Bill number 2187 and has been seconded. Discussion on that motion.
Ready.
Representative Sheila Babauta, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At this time, I'd like to offer House Substitute 1 for House Bill 2187. I just want to state for the record that the Ways and Means Committee did meet regarding this bill and adopted the House Substitute 1 version. However, due to the circumstances that arose, the committee report could not be completed and submitted. So moved.
So moved.
Yes.
Move and it's been seconded. Motion to place a substitute for 21-87 by Representative Babauta has been seconded. Discussion on that motion. Ready? All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Motion carries. Back to the main motion, 21-87 HS1. Discussion on that. Ready? Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes.
They probably read up on everything that was on the agenda. They did their own research, and they came ready.
Nobody wants to be there. You know what I mean?
They're not putting on a show. And that's 20. That's 20 of them.
Number 21-87 HS1 hereby passes the House. Lord Leader, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, before our next bill, I want to make a motion that we suspend Rule 7, Section 9, and Rule 9, Section 9 and 10. So moved.
Thank you, Floor Leader. Motion has been presented for the suspension of specific rules by Floor Leader has been seconded. Discussion on that motion. Ready? All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Next on our bill calendar is House Bill number 21-98, a bill for an act to authorize the governor to enter into agreements to offset the Commonwealth judgment liabilities against the Judgment Creditors Tax liability. I move for its passage.
Thank you, Floor Leader. Motion by Floor Leader for the passage of House Bill number 21-98 and has been seconded. Discussion on motion. Representative Tina Sablan.
Thank you, Speaker. I was just comparing with our Ways and Means Chairman, and we did actually also adopt changes to that bill as well. Some are technical, but I don't see the substitute for doctor. We could either leave this on the calendar and act on it next week, which is not having a session, and that will give us some time to find the substitute version that has your adoption. That's it.
Sure. Just so how substantial are the changes?
I apologize. I don't have my staff with me. I don't know where that file is. but I know that we adopted some changes. Some were just technical. Without the file, I would need to work with that.
Is that okay?
She's such a humble lady.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will respectfully yield to the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee because I was present during their meeting. However, I too do not recall what changes were adopted and how substantial they were. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Chairman of Ways and Means, you're recognized, please.
Thank you very much. Yes, some items were technical, but on the page 2 of that bill, the enactment portion, there was some language that we included in there, and we had assistance with our legal counsel. So if we do have a session next week, if we just allow the committee to go back with our clerk, our legal assistant, and just get the language and include it. Is that okay, Rep?
Floor leader, for the recall of your motion, please.
Thank you. With the understanding from the author and the members, I now withdraw my motion. So move.
That's
Thank
simple.
You, floor leader.
That easy.
And I recognize the floor leader again.
Thank you. And last on our bill calendar, and before offering the motion on our bill calendar, I'd like to again to suspend Rule 7, Section 9, Rule 9, Section 9 and 10. So move.
Thank you, floor leader. Motion for suspension of specific rules by our floor leader has been presented and has been seconded. Discussion on that motion. Ready? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Motion carries. Go ahead, floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Next and last on our bill calendar for action for today's order of business is House Bill number 21-111, a bill for an act to increase the term of bond anticipation notes from 5 years to 15 years and for other purposes. I move for its adoption.
Second.
Move for its passage.
Thank you, floor leader. A motion for the passage of House Bill number 21-111 by our floor leader and has been seconded. Discussion on that motion. Rep. Tina Saban, please.
I just wanted to request some background from, for the record, from the author of the bill as to where this legislation comes from and its intention, just so that we are clear about what we are doing.
Go ahead, Rep. Pimo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And this bill originated from Public Law 18-12, which was authored by our floor leader. That is to authorize the CDA to issue a pension obligation bond up to $300 million. And it was further amended under 18-45. And that was to insert languages that I guess include the general obligation bond. And this bill further amends the previous laws to include notes, loans, lines of credit, and on other instruments of indebtedness. And also to the mature date would go from 5 years to 15 years, which would be beneficial for CNMI, and that would give us better terms with any lending institution, bond companies, and so forth. I hope that answers everything.
Rep. Tina Saban, you still have the...
Yes, thank you, Rep. Pimo, for that summary. But I understand that there have also been discussions with finance and with CDA about the path forward to offer some relief for our government, which is in a great deal of fiscal distress. And I respectfully request that we discuss that as well. What's on the table? What are we looking at? And I understand the reasonableness of extending the maturity term from 5 years to 15 years, but what are we specifically looking at right now that this bill will help?
I just want to comment on this. I'm going to pause this real fast. I want to comment on the where do you even start with this? The fiscal, these representatives, their understanding of the fiscal situation in the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands runs so deep that they're able to have a full conversation about the impact of their pension fund debt to the financials, the overall cash situation of the Commonwealth as they head into this unanticipated crisis that has pulled down the Commonwealth's financials into a vortex. And they are able, in their heads, because they seem to understand
what they're doing.
Exactly. That they know what it means to move the amortization of their pension fund debt from a 5-year period to a 15-year period, and talk about the debt instruments and all that stuff, and how that will affect the governor's cash management ability in the CNMI. I have never once in the 35th Guam legislature heard any senator talk about how our pension fund debt affects the financials of the government of Guam. Much less even a conversation in this current session that they just ended, the Guam legislature, I'm talking about the financials of the government of Guam. They didn't address any of it except for Mary Torres's 2% bill. I'm sorry, did you want to say anything about it?
No,
You're embarrassed for Guam?
Yes, yeah.
So let's go
Ashamed
back.
Tatlo.
Let's go back to the Commonwealth's legislature.
Go ahead, Rick. I'll try to answer that. But what's on the table right now, I believe CDA, Department of Finance, has been in communication with, I believe, the Bank of Guam. And they were offered, I believe, $25 million. And in order for the AG to sign off of that loan, they needed some more clarity by inserting languages. And so the administration, through the Department of Finance, came over a couple of days ago and with CDA to clarify what's going to be done. So they just needed more clarity so that the AG can sign off of it. Currently, the law is too broad, which they can still do it, but the most important part here is the 5 to 15 years, and I believe the clarity of the note or bank credit or other instrument. Thank you.
Tina, you still on the phone?
Is the intention of the $25 million borrowing, is that for pensions, or is it, what is, yeah, I think that's really ultimately what I'm asking.
Yes, from my understanding with the Department of Finance, the Department of Finance use funds already in the general fund to pay the pension. So they needed relief, and also I'm not sure the exact amount they needed, but it also protects them that future payments to the settlement fund is made. So this is very clear. It's strictly for the settlement fund. Funds have already been used up by the general fund, and so we're just preparing for the upcoming year. I'm assuming some of it will be used this year and also for next year. With the pandemic going on, the Department of Finance is pretty much preparing themselves for the worst. I hope that too.
Thank you, Rapimo. Tina Simon.
Thank you. And with the time that I have left, I do just want to express my support for the legislation. As I said, it makes sense to extend the term for loans from 5 to 15 years. This is a government and very dire straits. Having said that, though, we should all be concerned about the prospect of more debt. We have been in this pattern of deficit spending, mismanagement of funds, not nearly enough accountability. And so my support for this legislation really hinges on the commitment of this leadership for ensuring that there will be accountability, not just for these funds, which we recognize might be necessary, might be an unfortunate necessity at this point because of the the state that we find ourselves in because of this pandemic. We were in fiscal distress before the pandemic, but now this is not like anything we've ever seen before. And so perhaps it might be necessary, and we recognize that. But there should not be another blank check to the administration. And I would like to note for the record that this administration has also already borrowed from our Marianas Public Lands Trust. And the reports that we have received have been inadequate, to say the least. And going forward, Mr. Speaker and colleagues, that this government is anticipating a huge influx of funds, of financial assistance from the federal government. We have already received over $170 million in FEMA funds. We're expecting additional, for YouTube alone, we're expecting additional assistance for COVID-19. We're expecting additional assistance through the CARES Act and other stimulus packages that are in the way. CDBG-DR, $244 million, a lot of money is going to be funneling through this government. And it is really our job to make sure that those dollars are well spent and properly accounted for. And I think we need to be clear on for the record, Mr. Speaker and colleagues, that this, it's more than just extending the maturity term from 5 to 15 years. We should also be clear that this does not constitute a blank check. And my understanding, Mr. Speaker, is that you have committed to increasing the level of legislative oversight on all of the funds that will be coming through the government for disaster recovery, all the disasters. I think it's necessary, and I would like to ask if you could elaborate on that further for the record and before we move forward on this one. Thank you.
Absolutely. I was actually going to go into announcement. You're kind of running the agenda pretty quick here, but yes, you're right. And by presenting this legislation, what is 21-111, we were also contemplating on how can we make sure that there's accountability to the fullest on not just these funds, but also the additional funds that you have mentioned, FEMA, COVID-19 funds, the CARES Act that's going to be funneling its way this way. We will be creating a special committee to address those funds that are coming for disaster-related causes, healthcare causes, federal funds outside of that are coming in to assist us in these very, very difficult times that we face as the people of the Commonwealth. And that was the position that we had stated in regards to pushing with this legislation, that we will support the legislation, introduce it, and get the amendments done, and also that this legislation will give the CDA some flexibility. If you can recall, a few months back, we did amend this certain section in the CDA Act to allow them to negotiate with the revenue-generating bonds. If you guys can recall that, we passed that, I believe, last year, July or August last year. And unfortunately, then, we had a very good rating, and we were able to go into these negotiations. By the time the negotiations had expired, the percentage was from 6% is now like, I think it's 12.7 or 13%, which is not beneficial to the CNMI. And then in addition to that, the 5-year term period to satisfy the bond is unrealistic, especially at that rate. And in our financial situation right now, it's unrealistic. Yes, we will get an influx of monies that are coming this way, but those influx of monies are not here yet, and the monies that we need is for now. And if we can get those monies out and get our credit rating into a better stance, get these monies into our economy, help our people, get the businesses going at the same time, that's where we want to be. CDBG-DR money, it's been a year, and we still haven't received any CDBG-DR money. That we'll probably see in October, November, maybe December of this year. the FEMA monies, we got to remember that a lot of the FEMA monies are capital improvement projects. With this situation, we're kind of tied with these projects because of social distancing and all that kind of stuff, right? So we look forward to those funds, and we also look forward in addressing those funds from this body. So before we make those appointments, those will happen under announcements. But just to elaborate on Retina Sablan's question and to address the need of this specific legislation, I'm here, and I look forward to work with the members, and we'll get that committee set up at the very soonest. Thank you. Any further discussion? Rep. Benavente, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I, for one, also is sketchy with regards to the bill and the way the intent of the bill, how it's going to work. This is not the first time that we have gone through all the different issues that arises behind our back in the past. Until now, information were not disclosed by finance and the budget. We requested for numbers. We're supposed to be the power of the purse. We hold the power of the purse. Unfortunately, we're not. We have no control over it, and we don't collect the money. We don't dispense the money, and that's our issue. They don't give us the information until now. There's still not enough information that lingers over to the chamber of the legislature with regards to all the expenses and everything in the past that are supposed to be justified. Nothing aforementioned. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I'm not against the bill personally. I'm not against the bill that is in the intention of the bill. I'm not against it, but at the same time, I like to caution that we have to make sure that, we're not shortchanging our future. This is a bill that will last 15 years. Future generations are going to be affected by this. And the economic, as we know, education is the economic engine of the CNMI for the future. So, regardless how we look at it, we have to be very mindful and look forward for each and every one of us and our siblings. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Rep. Benavente. Further discussion? Vice Speaker, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. While I do support the intent of the bill, it is basically to increase the term from 5 to 15 years. And these are bond anticipation notes, and I noticed that on page 2, starting on line 6, the bond anticipation notes includes notes, loans, lines of credit, and other instruments of indebtedness, other instruments of indebtedness. I'd like to ask any member who can define what is in other instruments of indebtedness. And because the title of the bill also ended up with saying, and for other purposes. So, does anybody have any idea what other instruments of indebtedness are there that we may encounter? Or maybe the author, since you're in the finance field, maybe you can clarify that for me and maybe for some members. But I do support the intent of the bill.
Go ahead, if I can assist you with that.
This is them discussing what amendments and stuff to put into it.
Vice Speaker, on behalf of Representative Yumo, thank you for your question. I believe that that's a specific reason why the Attorney General had requested that before they proceed forward with anything, that he'll feel comfortable into signing a contractual agreement, whether it's with the bank or MPOT or any other financial institution, that the language that were added in there was the bond anticipation notes, includes notes, loans, line of credit, which is the specific portion, and any other instruments of indebtedness is the general term. The specific terms are the notes, the loans, line of credit, and
He did not need to take a break to get a definition of what his bill meant.
It's not even his bill.
Services for the future. That's
Wow.
that's a general term, but the specific terms were needed in there just so that we can proceed with whatever that the CDAs are negotiating right now.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for clarifying, and I'm ready for the main question. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. Any further under discussion? Ready? Clerk, please call the roll.
Representative Bato?
Yes.
Representative Bentley? Representative Blanco?
Yes.
Representative Borja?
5 bills and not a single recess.
Representative Castro?
Okay.
Representative Villarreal?
Okay.
Representative Flores?
Yes.
Representative Guerrero?
Good.
Representative Torres? Representative Zalma?
Good.
Representative Borja? Representative Kita? Representative Peter?
Good.
Representative Rhodes? Representative Christina Sabran? Representative John Sabran?
Good.
Representative Gomez?
Yes.
Representative Lima? Mr. Speaker?
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, all 20 members voted yes.
Thank you, Clerk. With all 20 members voting yes, House Bill number 21-111 hereby passes the House. Thank you. That takes care of our bill calendar. I'd like to recognize Representative Lee Pong.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, at the request of the author of the bill for House Bill 2179, which is the Landlord Tenant Rental Act of 2019, highly requested because of its significant importance that we can place it on calendar and act on it in the next session. If there's no objection.
Thank you, Representative Lee Pong. Floor Leader, without any objections from the members.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Without any objections from the members, I now make a motion that we place House Bill 21-79, a bill for an act to establish the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands Landlord and Tenant Rental Act of 2019 for other purposes, and that it be placed in the bill calendar for next order of business for action. So moved.
Thank you, Floor Leader. With the motion to place House Bill number 21-79 by Floor Leader on the bill calendar for action the next session has been presented, has been seconded. Discussion on that motion. Representative Sabran.
The chairman motion to place it on calendar. Just given the situation that so many tenants are facing at this time, because we are in a period of emergency, we respectfully request that we, in addition to placing House Bill 2179 on calendar, that we also place the bill that we introduced today. I know that we had discussed possibility of merging them. I don't know yet if it would fit necessarily in Congresswoman Narcisa's bill, but at least for the purposes of having a discussion and deliberating on both measures, we respectfully request that the board leader also introduce that motion.
Thank you, Representative Sabran. Any further discussion on the main motion? Representative Bentley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, I look at the bill and it's a very good bill. The intent is very good. Unfortunately, we're in a situation right now where all of these things happen within our community, and the situation is very sensitive. To and I'm going to go on the layman's approach. If you want to evict somebody and you are the landlord, you cannot evict that person right away. Unfortunately, the landlord also is depending on the income that is being collected from that because of other use for the families. The issue is very sensitive. So there are a lot of people here that probably would favor this, but there are also a lot of people that might not favor it. So I would like to ask the author. I'm sorry, I have really personally no wholeheartedly totally objected the bill. It's just that I think we need to put the bill in the committee and let the committee do some soul searching and gather some information with regards to this to both the tenants and landlords of different businesses in order for us to kind of comment this with some tangible decision to put it up here so we don't get criticized. And the reason for that, I've said that, is that just this morning when I woke up, I was bombarded by questions from people who owns apartments, local people who owns apartments, and also they registered a concern with regards to this bill. So in light of that, that is why I mentioned it this way, that I hope that it will be more fair to kind of more or less put in the committee and let the committee get some more information and then come back and we can hash it out. And I'm in support of the bill, don't get me wrong. It's a good bill. It's just that there are the pros and cons that has to be addressed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Benavente. Further discussion. Martita?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For the record, I just wanna, are you referring to both bills, Rep. Benavente?
Thank you for that question, colleague. I was, yes, on the initial bill, the other bill that I saw, yes, that one is much more. Yours is more comprehensive. And that's why I told you it's a lot better bill. But still, the sensitivity of the situation that we would encounter during this pandemic issue and, not being able, we're gonna have to face in reality that we are facing recession. After recession, we're gonna face depression. So be enlightened with that, I mentioned it that way to that fashion. So we won't know. For some people, they might not bother them, but for others, it does. And that is why we're here, as a representative, to kind of look for the best for people that's out there. And that's all I'm asking for. If we can come to a meeting ground where it's workable among both on all sides, I got so be it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You still have the floor, Martita.
Thank you, Speaker. Just for clarification, did the motion?
The motion is to place on the calendar. The motion, we are not going to act on the legislation.
Right, but is it both bills?
No, this is just Assembly line. I will make another motion for the 112.
Okay. So let me clarify this. Okay. For the members' information, absence House Bill 21-79, and I support the request of our good colleague Representative Tina Sablan in placing House Bill number 112 to the calendar as well. And I want for the record that, absence House Bill 21-79, this bill is solely to establish the Landlord-Tenant Rental Act. Today, we don't have anything, so we don't have nothing. We have nothing to be guided with absence this. So this House Bill 2179 is crucial. Members and dear colleagues, we need to pass this. This is a bill that has been recycled for I don't know how many years since I introduced this. But absence this bill, House Bill number 21-112 will be vague in a sense, because right now the CNMI, we don't have some kind of code or statutes, regulations to be guided with. So I ask for your support and to act on this so that we can move on with other subsequent bills such as House Bill 112. That's all, Mr. Speaker and members.
Is it because they don't have a landlord-tenant agreement in place?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to Rep. Janet Maritita and Rep. Tina Sablan for just initiating the discussion. These are very important legislation that is relevant today. And just like Rep. Maritita stated, we do need a foundation in place. And so I do support placing this on the calendar for next session, as well as 21-111, so that we can discuss, because Rep. Maritita's bill 21-79 does provide the foundation on language pertaining to contractual agreements, the rental agreements, landlord remedies, holdover, unlawful entry, repairs, just the responsibilities of the tenant and responsibilities of the landlord. And then the legislation that was introduced today, 21-112, it does cover rental agreements during disaster, states of disaster. And so I think these are two very important pieces of legislation that we should add to the calendar. I think there are times when legislation can, there's a time when we need legislation to be reviewed in a committee, and there are times when we really do need to speed up the process. And in a state of emergency where our community is feeling the impact today, we need to bypass that process. We can have the discussion on the floor. We can conduct our research in the meantime and really make the amendments and strengthen the bill when we meet for next session. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Babonta. Representative Tina Sablan for the second round.
And just briefly, I would like to emphasize the point that Congresswoman Janet Maritita made, which is basically that we have always needed House Bill 2139, and the need for clarity in the law, or just having any kind of law that spells out the rights and the obligations of tenants and landlords. That need has always been there. But that need becomes especially clear in times like this. And it was very clear that we needed this back in solar law, and definitely after Q2, and certainly now when we are in the middle of a public health emergency, and the rights of tenants as well as landlords is coming into full, crystal clear view as families are facing eviction. Colleagues, we heard yesterday 8,000 to 10,000 unemployed. That's what we're anticipating. PSS, 800 people just got furloughed this week, and we're expecting several thousand more from the government alone. And right now, when we're facing such a contagious virus, pandemic is serious diseases, this is not the time for people to worry about homelessness. That increases risk for everybody. And so as Professor Balta explained, as Marisita explained, we need this foundation, which HB 2179 provides, but we also need to act quickly now. And the governor has been saying he has no authority at this time, although we question that as well. But other governors are suspending evictions and foreclosures right now. And what we're proposing is to give them the authority to do that here to protect people from homelessness so that we are not infecting or creating risk of infection for the whole community. And so we need both, and we need to act quickly on both. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Representative Tina Saban. Rep Blanco for the first round, and then Rep Benavente, Rep Blanco, Rep Castropus, Rep Benavente for the first round.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. This is on Bill, House Bill 21112. Thank you very much to our colleagues, minority members. Perhaps just to improve, or for your consideration to improve on this bill. And this is just particularly for the word evictions. There has to be language somewhere in there whereby it protects.
Chairman Blanco, sorry to cut you off. We're not entertaining the legislation. We're still in the motion of getting a 79.
Mr. Speaker, I will yield my time when we entertain this. Thank you very much.
I know you're getting excited already, but all right. Rep Benavente, sorry.
If that was Tina, you're out of order.
Sorry for the confusion, colleague. It's good because we're listening to all sides of the turf. But there's one thing that we have to understand as people, With this kind of situation right now that we have, and there's no existence of the law, no provisions, it's usually our culture usually use in tradition as what they call mutual understanding between two parties, the tenant and the landlords. And communication is the key to any barriers that's blocking the effort of not really allowing somebody. So passing the box, using, like we say, we legislate and not really going down to the level where we communicate with individuals and really get their true feelings and how they feel and how they run their business and how the tenants handle themselves within the business. Those are the issues. They're very sensitive issues. The pandemic and the issues that we have, I would not object that. I will never object because it is out of control. This thing is coming from God. It's not coming from any neighbors around the corner. Maybe we should be praying more than worrying about, and go and talk to people. Make sure that we talk to people and make sure that we open people's heart at the same time, both sides, on both sides of the turf, like I said. I don't know, Mr. Speaker, but rambling it out outrightly and not really giving a chance to get down to the level of understandings and really getting the feel of what it takes. Some of these people, individuals, are renting one house and they got one extra house and they're renting it. And they're using that also as an income. I can understand in all the sites, the furloughs, the situations that we're in. But we have to be resilient to our environment, and we have to communicate to get our points across among each other. And maybe, like I said, maybe we should pray more. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Benavente. Okay, members, on that motion to place House Bill number 21-79 on the bill calendar, not for action, but to be placed on calendar. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Motion carries. House Bill 2179 is hereby placed on calendar for next session. Floor Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, with the understanding and the consensus of the members, I now make a motion that we place House Bill number 21112, a bill for an act to authorize a freeze on rent increases, evictions, and foreclosures during a declared state of emergency of major disasters and for other purposes, and that it be placed in the bill calendar for our next session's action. So moved.
Thank you, Floor Leader. A motion is in place by Floor Leader to place House Bill number 21-112 on the bill calendar, not for action, but just placed on calendar. Discussion on that motion. Ready? All those in favor, please say aye. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm going to make it real quick because we have perfect 7 o'clock. Just wanted to commend our colleagues. Just want to request our colleagues on the ward evictions that they consider the landlord if, for example, the apartment unit or the house blows away by the typhoon and the tenants somehow, are recipient of a tent on the property, that they consider that the landlord may need to come in and fix up the apartment unit or rebuild the house, whereby the tenant will not come back and say, I'm sorry, you cannot evict me because there's a law that prevents you from evicting me. So then it's a lose-lose situation for both the tenant and the landlord. So perhaps some kind of language that they may be able to put in there to avoid such situation. You bet, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Falco. Rep. Peter?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
We will be able to make a small amendment or addition to it, right? Absolutely. So, okay. So, yes. We can probably wait till. Yes. All right. Yes. Those bills are on calendar. It's not final, so it's a working target. We work together to fix the legislations. If it has to be put together, then put together. If it has to be done separately, then we do it separately. But we definitely will work on the legislation as a body since it's already on the bill calendar. This is the committee, right? Now. So, okay. Ready, members? All those in favor to place House Bill number 21-112 on the bill calendar, please say aye. Those opposed, please say nay. Motion carries. Rep. Castro, sorry. House Bill 21-112 is hereby placed on calendar. Okay, that takes care of our bill calendar. Down to miscellaneous business. I recognize Representative L.J. Castro.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, colleagues, productive session today. The last time we were gathered.
All right. And that was your Commonwealth Legislature. Oh, hold on, there's something going on with mine. Well, basically everything that they discussed had something to do with either the finances of the government, which are in dire straits, and there's a whole lot that can be said about why they're in dire straits. And as a matter of fact, that fiscal plan that we went over in the beginning discusses that in a very honest way. But they also discussed 2 measures that would provide a very big form of economic relief to renters and to those with mortgages. And they're going to take that up at their next session, but not a single freaking recess.
Yeah,
Not a
but
single
I like the
script
fact
read.
that they added their ideas. They're gonna take it back and I guess fix it, right, for the next session, because I think what that guy with the older man was trying to say was that they need to look at it at all points, right? So I think it's even gonna go all the way back to the help that the people who own the property could get.
Yes.
So it's going to be everything until they're going to follow through, you know? It's not just going to stop. The bill's not going to pass because it just stops. They're going to have everybody covered.
And they're going to, so the going theory is that they're going to go into session next week. It's subject to the call of the speaker, I guess. They're going to figure it out by that time. They're going to work together and all that stuff. And I mean, I guess, you know, people could also comment on the collegiality of the CNMI legislature versus the Guam legislature and all that. All I know, what's important to me, is that the Guam legislature has not gone into a discussion or held an official discussion about the dire financial straits the government of Guam is in. Neither has it presented any ideas to provide economic relief to the people of Guam. As far as the people of the CNMI are concerned, there's hope at the end of a rainbow because their legislators are actually doing something.
It's hope at the end of a tunnel.
Oh, whatever.
No, a rainbow's already hope in itself. You don't need hope at the end.
A pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Yeah.
And light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
Good try. You get a C, boy. You get a C. Just like, no, Eric gets an F.
The algebra was so wrong. The answer was actually 10. Do you have it? Oh, and just so let's go back to that before we get off of this.
Oh, can we just say thank you to our person that brought the cookies over? Thank
oh my
you.
gosh! Can we say who?
I don't know. I just want to say thank you. I'm not sure.
It's kind of distinctive. These things are distinctive.
Yeah, but
that it comes from a certain.
But I just thank you.
It comes from a certain cakery.
Yeah, it's delicious.
So, thank you, person.
And he knew better just to eat one before I came, because I would have really beat his butt.
Okay, so cast back to my screen. I want to show you now. This committee took a lot of politics out of the statement of the financial position of the Commonwealth, but that didn't stop Governor Ralph Torres from injecting a lot of politics by lifting from this document in order to cast blame where he needed to, because he needed to take the blame away from himself. Because what this document basically says is that Ralph Torres really screwed the CNMI over the past few years, and that's why they're having such a difficult time dealing with this COVID-19 response, because they were already in a bad situation when it started. This document was published on March 31, 2020, which means that from January to March 31, they had already been putting this stuff out. This was already part of the whatever, right? If you go down, now Ralph Torres said that in response to COVID-19 and as a result of the public school system taking more money, as he says.
Suing or doing something.
It was an injunction that hasn't even been figured out yet. That's why he has to cut retirees their 25%.
Right.
Right? And so he blamed teachers and public school system employees. And this was last week or a week and a half ago, I think it was. But this document, published on March 31 and put together prior to March 31, already had, if you look at the right column under task 2A, expenditure reductions, go to number 7, cancel or postpone additional 25% pension payments. This had nothing to do with the injunction, the public school system. In the document produced for the governor's office itself, it shows you that Governor Ralph Torres was lying in his letter to retirees about who's to blame for all of this, and that this was already in the works prior to March 31, 2020. And that's really all I have. Do you have anything else?
No.
For Kandit News, I'm Troy Torres.
And I'm Johnny Rosario.
And that's Eric Rosario.
With the
Good
bad
night.
math. Good night, CNMI. Good night, Guam.
Good night.
Sorry, Dad.